Hi everybody, and thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of the Explaining History video channel. The thing I want to talk today about is sources, what we do with them, what they are, what the point of them is, and this might be something that you absolutely hate, or if you're helping your children with their history homework, something they absolutely hate. And I think there's a heck of a lot of confusion about sources and about the point of them and what we do with them, why there are questions about them. So let's start from the beginning. What are they? Well, they are the evidence that historians base their work on. They are, because we haven't got a time machine, we have to rely really on things that the past has kind of left behind, people have created in the past, that perhaps explain their experience, things like diaries and documents that give us clues that we're on the right track. The only thing is that these things are endlessly open to interpretation. There are a great many historians that look at sources and go, well, I think this means X, not Y. I think this implies that somebody had this intention, not that intention. And it all comes down to how we in the present interpret them. Now, if we were to take a source such as, I don't know, the letter that Eisenhower wrote on the eve of D-Day, the letter that he wrote saying, I accept full responsibility for the disaster, and because he thought it might possibly all go wrong. Okay. We can look at that source in a couple of ways. We can look at him being sensible. It might be a wise thing to write because you never know how the battle's going to go the next morning. Hopefully he's thinking it's going to go fine. It might not because there's always risk involved. We might look at it and possibly conclude that Eisenhower was pessimistic. But if we did that, we'd have to ignore all the other information that is known on the subject, that he had spent 2 years preparing for this, that he thought probably would work, and that this was the Allies' best chance. What we couldn't say, of course, is that this letter shows us that D-Day had failed, and because obviously it's written beforehand, and we know factually that it didn't fail, that it was a success. So source interpretation, in other words, has to be kind of hemmed in a little bit by what actually the other facts and knowledge show us. We know we can't just interpret that letter in any way we see fit or draw any conclusion we want from it, because the rest of the evidence that we have at our fingertips won't allow that. So sources can be interpreted, but sometimes, often, within fairly narrow boundaries. Okay, now this is a little introductory video really in a whole series of things I'm going to do on sources. So I'm actually going to look at all the different kinds of sources that you can use and what you can analyse in roughly in each kind of category of source. But this is really kind of like a catch-all. There's nothing to be weary of or afraid of in source-based questions. In many ways, they're actually the best questions to get to help you to boost your marks up. That's kind of why they have them. Some students aren't really comfortable with doing huge long essays, or they don't find that that's their kind of forte. But if you continue watching this, I'll tell you how to do it. So they create source questions which give pupils a little bit of leeway, a little bit of the extra possibility of gaining some marks. And what you have to realise, in every source question, the clues are all there. They're all laid out for you, and you just have to work through them methodically. So you have to look at the attribution of the source. You have to look at who said it, where it was created, if it tells you that, when, possibly for what reason. Very important one is who the audience was. So was this a speech by Abraham Lincoln to the whole nation? Was it a letter by Abraham Lincoln to a friend? Was it the last will and testament of Lenin before he died? Was it a speech read out by Hitler in a courthouse in 1923 when he's on trial? 1924, sorry, beg your pardon. The context is everything. Think about this in your own lives. You mean different things when you are in different company. So if you're talking to your friends, the things you say to them are probably going to be very different to the things you say to your mum and dad, or the things you say in the classroom, or the things you say, if you're pulled over by a policeman for speeding or something like that, as periodically happens to me. The context, what else is happening at the time, is really, really important in determining what the person is saying and what we think they're trying to say, what they're getting at. So that's another important part. So we've got attribution, context, and then we've got the content of the source. And sometimes you can go through the content of a source and look for keywords, key phrases that have a connection with the bigger picture of the thing you're studying. You can also go through and perhaps if other people are mentioned in the source. If Oliver Cromwell is mentioning people like Henry Ireton or John Lilburne, you might look through the source and it might possibly be even a good idea to go and find out who these people are. And then that would again give you a lot of power to pick apart what the source is meaning. You might find out that Henry Ireton was his son-in-law. John Lilburne was someone he didn't like or have any much respect for particularly. There's a whole other story. And if you understood those things, you might think, this letter from Oliver Cromwell to Henry Ireton about John Lilburne. I see what the two men are saying to one another about this third party. Okay. So the more you can arm yourself with in terms of knowledge, the more power you have to look at the content of the source within the context of the source, and then that will help you also to understand the attribution of the source, who wrote it, when they wrote it, why they wrote it, and the content is what they are saying. Okay, I've waffled on for long enough, so you can catch me on the next video that I'm going to put on this YouTube channel, which is going to be about photographic sources. So we're going to have a look at them, and if you're lucky I might fish out a few that we can put online and evaluate while we chat. Thanks very much, I'll catch you on the next video. Bye bye.